Welcome back to the show, everybody. Eddie Austin here. I've got a friend of mine on, Josh Wilson. We've become friends on Facebook, and I followed him for a while, and I'm always inspired by the things he's doing, especially with the motivational stuff he posts. And also, I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy. And Alex Hormozy does some amazing thing with acquisitions and businesses. And by watching Josh, I've watched him over the years where he also acquires businesses, and he's got an amazing story to share. So, welcome, Josh.
Yes, man. Thank you so much for having me, Eddie. Really looking forward to jumping in to this. I call it my Burr recovery addict syndrome, getting into business acquisitions now, so.
Yeah, 100%. I think we all get started. We probably sign up for some mastermind where we could just be a millionaire in the first year or something like that. And, this Burr fix flip, do real estate, all these different ways. And then we find out that we're doing it for all the wrong reasons, right? We're probably just chasing money, you know, going after a path that somebody did it for 30 years that made them a multimillionaire. It
Yep.
doesn't mean it's going to make us a multimillionaire overnight.
Yep, absolutely. And look, I ran a mastermind. I did the Burr method for a very long time. And look, the Burr method made me a multi millionaire over and over and over. And so I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to say that it wasn't great. I built a huge $25 million portfolio just from the Burr method alone, using zero of my own money.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely works. The problem is that most real estate investors, and probably your listeners here, are, if they are real estate investors, they are equity rich and cash poor. And I
Yeah.
was one of those guys. So
Mm-hmm.
I had all this equity on paper, but at the end of the day, I was trying to figure out sometimes how in the hell I'm going to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And so we had all this equity, millions of dollars on paper. But when it came to cash flow, you had one bad hot water heater break, it just destroyed your cash flow from that property. So I decided at some point there's got to be another way to be able to continue to create the wealth, whether it's through real estate, and also be able to have the cash flow. And that's when I made the leap into business acquisitions. I did that about 5 years ago, and I have not turned back. I haven't looked back since.
Mm-hmm. You know, so many times we chase down this real estate, and you're 100% right. And, just like when I came out of a W-2 job and got into being an entrepreneur, you know, people ask me, Eddie, what made you decide to be an entrepreneur? What made you decide to get into real estate? And it was being broke. Like, I was making, 200,000 bucks a year, and it still wasn't enough. Right. So, it was that pursuit of something else. And yes, when I found real estate, exact same position, I was fixing and flipping real estate, and it was just never enough. Yeah, we might turn 400,000 a year, but when it come down to a friend wanting to borrow 3,000 bucks from me and I didn't have it, I thought, man, this is sick. Like, this is truly, like, what is wrong with this?
Yep.
Turn this much money and not have that money is just crazy.
No, absolutely. I mean, I get it. I've been there. I'll tell you, I got started, Eddie, very early on. So I got started back in 2008, back in real estate, right before the real estate crash happened. Talk about a way to just jump in, get baptized by real estate. And so I saw a lot of what not to do. I saw a lot of investors go bankrupt. I saw a lot of over leveraging. Interest rates were kind of funky then. And I saw a lot of what not to do. Then over here in New Orleans, where I am, we had Hurricane Katrina, so we actually
Mm,
didn't feel the entire effects of the economy at that time in 2008, because we were in recovery mode. So we had so much influx of cash coming into the city that it was a little bit difficult. It was a little different.
yeah.
But that being said, people still went bankrupt. People still lost their houses, investment properties, and I saw a lot of what not to do. So I ended up, doing real estate, from basically 2008 all the way up until 2021 or so. And 2022 is when I started divesting my portfolio. And people ask me all the time, Josh, you were killing it. You were doing so well. Why would you divest? Why would you, get rid of all the real estate? Well, at the end of the day, I feel like as investors, as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for that next level up. We're always looking for that
Yeah.
ladder. You just got to keep climbing. And so for me, I just felt like this was the next move. Like, I've done it in real estate. I could buy and burr properties for the rest of my life with my eyes closed. but it
Hmm.
wasn't challenging anymore for me.
Right.
I didn't wake up and get excited in the morning to go and burn another property because I know how to do it. I can do it. I can do 9, 10 of them in a week. And so
Right.
we had the connections, we had the banks, we had the systems. I mean, everything was perfect. But at the end of the day, I just needed to be challenged more, and I needed more cash flow. I bought my first business acquisition in 2021, and that was in Orlando, Florida. We bought a non-emergency medical transport company. You're probably wondering, how in the hell did you buy or why did you buy a non-emergency medical transport
Right.
company?
Right.
So we'll circle back all the way to 2008. So, and here's another thing that kind of pisses me off a little bit about the gurus out there today is that a lot of them will tell you, you can buy properties with no money down. You don't have to have any credit. You can do all this bullshit and just, become a millionaire overnight by not having a pot to piss in. Completely
Hmm.
false.
Yep.
And they're selling you a false narrative. And that's not the way we operate. It's not the way I ever operated. You need to have some cash. You got to have some credit. You got to have a little bit of a track record. And so what I did was, which today in today's society would be, people would probably look at this like I'm nuts, but I actually took on a second job to do NEMT. I was an NEMT driver in 2008. My wife at the time, same thing. She also drove as well, and we took all those funds from that NEMT gig, put it into a separate bank account, and used that for down payments to acquire real estate. That's how I
Hmm.
first got started. Then from
Hmm.
there, once I proven the concept, and I said, hey, I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been managing other people's properties for many years. I then started raising capital on my own. And once I got the OPM machine going, and once I got that, that process going, the sky was the limit. I mean, we raised millions and millions of dollars in capital to do deals. And that
Hmm.
really propelled our portfolio. And so circle back now to where I am today. Why did I get into NEMT? Well, because I knew the business very well. I used to drive. I kind of understood the ins and outs from the driver perspective, and I'm
Hmm.
really good at business in general. So I was able to kind of use those, use the driving aspect, my business sense, and put them together and bought this company. And look, it's not all sunshines and rainbows, Eddie. At the end of the
No.
day, when I bought that company in Orlando, I literally almost gave up. I almost said, you know what, this is not for me, because we lost money our first year. And you're probably thinking to yourself, how in the hell can you go from buying a company for $350,000? Is you read all the financials, you read all everything, the due diligence, and then you lose money in the first year? Well, because I had a system in place of how I wanted things to be done, and I needed to put a full management team. I live in Louisiana, so I
Right.
wasn't in Florida. So I needed to have a full team in place, and I knew there was going to be some time, there was going to be some effort that needed to be, and change the culture of the people there. And so that first year was like, that was the test to see, okay, can I really do this? And
Right.
thank God I did, and thank God I stuck it out, because this is where most people fail, and this is
It
where
is.
most people just give up. Is that first year they're like, shit, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, and then all of a sudden they give up, they throw up the white towel, and then they're out. Well, we
Yeah.
stuck it out. Thank God. Second year we did, I think, like 58,000. Third year we did 250. Fourth, like 450, and then we're on track now to be doing seven figures this year. So
You
it's
know,
all about that persistence and staying on board. I'm sorry, I keep talking. I'll just keep going.
no, 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 you're fine. I wanted to say a couple things, and I wanted to back up and reflect on a few things you said
Yep.
because it's gold right there. But one of the first things when I coach people on buying companies is you need to have like 2 years of cash flow. So if you're raising money, to buy this thing, put that 2 years cash reserve. And if you cash flow in the first year, great. If you don't cash flow in the first year, you're not going to make desperate decisions. Like you're not going to think about giving up. You're not going to think about, oh man, well, I just don't know. Maybe this isn't for me. You've got that cash on hand just in case this thing goes 18 months, right? Without cash flow. And then it cash flows like crazy on 24 months. And then I want to reflect on something because you said the perfect entrepreneurial word. You got to a place you were no longer passionate about what you're doing and you pivoted, which is the powerful thing because so many people, it's just like a job, right? They keep grinding at it and keep grinding at it because this worked for our forefathers and everything else. It's not this outline design path, to where you're like, no, I'm no longer passionate about this. It's not exciting. It's not for me. And you pivoted. And when you pivoted, you totally changed the spectrum, and look where you are today because you made that decision.
Look, and I get so much hate. You would believe the people
Oh,
I ask.
I know exactly what you get.
I
I know
get the hate
exactly.
because people are like, man, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Like you went to business, you were doing so good in real estate, all this bullshit, noise, noise, noise. And at the end
Yeah.
of the day, I'm just doing me, and it's working.
Yeah.
The checks are coming in every month, and I'm just laughing all the way to the bank. So
Yeah, 100%. I've had the exact same thing, man. My first company, I started a metal fabrication business, then it went to a hot rod company, then a diesel shop, and then before we know it, we're doing all these different things. They're like, dude, what is with you? And then I even would walk into restaurants, and I was still working a day job at the time and doing this in the afternoon. And they would kind of shake their head like, yeah, it's the first time you've been out with your family in 2 or 3 weeks, and just kind of condemn that. Well, now when I walk in a restaurant, I see those same people, and I'm not trying to put anybody down here, but what I'm trying to say is I knew my path and I trusted it.
yep.
And I trust it for sure. And I walked away from corporate America at 36. I've never looked back. And I do what I want to do every single day because I can now, because I paid the price. I did work the late nights. I worked 7 days a week. I put in 100-hour plus weeks to get where I am today.
Yep.
But I'm happy I did it because now I watch other people, still like, man, I wish I could be where you are. Well, work for it. Pivot, do what it takes.
Yeah, and that's where most people, especially today in today's society, it's just most people that the Instagrams of the world, they're seeing all of this flashiness and buying drop shipping, e-com, Bitcoin. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, I think it's just a load of crap. Look at the NFTs in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Remember when that was like a big deal? Like,
Oh man, it was crazy.
I was calling that stuff out. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't know how people think this is like real. Like this is real.
Yeah.
Like people were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for virtual land. Like
Yeah.
where is the brains? Like I don't get it. So anyway,
I got two more things here, man. So first off, I got a call. We run a real estate investment fund. And I got a call from a guy, and actually a guy and a girl. It was a company. They said, hey, we want to tokenize real estate. And I was like, okay, interesting concept. Let's hear what that's about. And then they said, also, we could take your real estate and tokenize it. We buy $30 to $70 million properties. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. But what else? What are you trying to go with this? And they're like, well, what we can really do is we can sell the digital real estate. Like you could essentially buy the airspace in Snoop Dogg's backyard. I'm like, wow.
oh my God.
Wow.
Wow.
I was like, look, you can't buy air. All right.
Yeah.
you cannot buy sailboat fuel. It's not possible. And from that, it's like, okay, we're done here. But also, I don't believe, and I know that you believe this, so I want to bring this up. I don't believe in investing in anything I don't understand. You went out here and you bought a business, and you may not have had all your cards right when you first started, when you bought that first business. But because you're passionate and because you understood, and it's a business model you can understand, you made sense of it and you put it all together and it worked. I don't recommend these people, investing in things they don't understand. Like when I meet somebody that doesn't understand like real estate investing, like, look, we're like an Edward Jones. We don't buy stock, bonds, and mutual funds. Your funds actually go into real property. And I educate them on that. And by the end of it, by the time they're an investor, they know exactly what we do. I've never heard anybody explain an NFT or Bitcoin to me in a fashion that I understand it well enough, or nor would I buy intellectual property that I would do it.
Yeah, and that's probably why I don't invest in it, is because I just don't understand.
Right.
I've tried to understand it. I just don't understand it, and I've and it's too volatile. Like,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, business acquisitions can be volatile as well. It's actually extremely risky. And that's another thing that I tell people all the time is they want to get into business acquisitions or M&A, and you have to be a leader. Like you can't just, this is not a passive job. And
Right.
most people think it is. It can become a passive job, but it will not be one on your first acquisition. When you get 5, 6, 7 acquisitions under your belt and you actually have a holding company, it could be very well passive.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. That's another thing. I just had one of my people that's in my inner circle. They said, "Well, Eddie, you said you were retired at 36. You don't look too retired, my friend."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Well, I'm retired from everything I don't want to do. And
Yeah.
I'm working on everything I do. I'll never truly retire because I love what I do." And I know that you do too, Josh. Like holding company and creating this and having this business acquisitions, you absolutely love what you do every day, I'm
I,
sure.
I do. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I said, man, this is the first thing I think about when I wake up, and it's the last thing I think about when I go to bed. And there's people out there that, will say, oh, man, you need to get a life. Well, this is my life. This is what
Yeah.
I love to do. And, just like you may like to go fishing every day, I love to do deals every day. That's my passion. I love to motivate people. I tell people all the time, I should have been a damn coach,
Yeah.
like a football coach, because I really do enjoy motivating my team and pushing them forward. Look, we're now we have 6 companies in 4 states, over 150 employees now on our team. I mean, the growth is just tremendous, and just being able to have that, being able to provide for 150 families, and they're all counting on me to make sure that we deliver every day. We're doing the right things. It gets me excited every day to wake up and want to do this. So.
Man, that's amazing. Congratulations, man. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I do what I do because I want to help other people. I strive to complete the impossible every single day so somebody else can say, well, he did it. I can too. And I know that you have the same thing.
Oh, absolutely, man. I have younger guys, younger gals that'll come to me, and they want to get into investing in this space. And I just tell them, in the beginning, I'm like, look, you're young now, you can make mistakes, but invest in yourself. Learn, how to change your mindset. Get out of a scarcity mindset. A lot of people are just so afraid. They're so fearful of jumping in and making the leap. And at the end of the day, you can still make calculated risk, and still be fine. And most of the time, it's really all in your head.
Yeah.
Once I was able, and that was another thing, man. I give a lot of credit to. I have a mindset coach, Mike Kitko, and
Yep.
I give a lot of credit to him. He was able to get me out of a scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset, and get out of survival mode into creation mode. And if you want to, if you want to go Google those things and figure what that is, I'm telling you, creation mode is the best damn place to be. Uh,
It
I was in
is.
I was in survival mode for a very, very long time, pretty much probably the majority of my life. And man, once I flipped that switch and turned that dial and moved over to the other side, things just started happening. People started coming into my life, that have been nothing but positive, and I'm happier now. I'm doing more deals. We're making more impact, and we're providing for families. And yeah, man, it's a great place to be.
I want to go deep on that for just a second
Yep.
because I know I went on a very spiritual journey last year and, really finding myself and going through that and, finding that mindset coach or, really defining the why, the true
Yeah.
why we're doing all this is so important because I sort of lost that. And, that's what I wanted to touch on with you is like, at some point you went through something and this mindset coach or whoever you talk to your inner circle, they helped you probably get through that and find that place of your purpose and
Yeah.
defining that why. Was
Yeah.
that something that worked for you?
Absolutely. I went on a retreat last summer, and I spent a lot of time at that retreat. We meditated. I've never meditated in my life, Eddie. I don't.
Hmm.
It's just not me. I always thought it was woo woo shit, and
Yep.
people are crazy, and they just need to get to work.
Yep.
But once I started doing that, and I really got into it, I got on this like health kick and journey, mindset journey, and it's the best damn thing that's ever happened to me. And all I can say is that when you start doing those things, you start taking care of your mind, you start taking care of your body, your health. A lot of things just start snowballing into place.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized is that it's a lot of times it's just your mind, it's just the stories that you're telling yourself over the years, or at least the stories that have been told to you over the years. Like,
Yeah.
like my mom, like I remember very vividly, my mom, telling me, oh, you just need to go to school. You just, get out of school, go to college. After you get out of college, go get yourself a nice job and, have a good, long, successful career, buy a house, like do the traditional things. And just wasn't for me,
No.
I didn't go to college, dropped out of college, didn't have, I actually had a 401k. I wiped out my 401k, invested it all in real estate. And all the things that I've done that have been against the grain have worked out for me tremendously.
And
And
that is identical.
yeah. And like today, till this day, I just now, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, the best things that I've ever done, have ever come out of my life have been when I've just said it, fuck it, I'm going against the grain, and I did it.
Yeah.
And it's, getting outside of that comfort zone. And it's the best damn thing that's ever happened. So,
Man, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, because, I was in the gym this morning having a great conversation with you could probably call him my powerlifting coach when I was in my powerlifting days. And, we did a lot of cool stuff together and had a lot of fun, but, we stood beside each other today, and he even said, look, man, I'm looking towards more of the spirituality side of my life more than anything. And he was this, as power lifters, we didn't really care so much about body fat. We just wanted to be super strong, like the 1% strong.
yep.
And now today, man, he's lost like 45 pounds. I've lost, I know, 38 pounds. And I feel good about it. Like now today, it's about how well and how good can I take care of myself,
Yeah.
internally and externally.
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you this, I said it earlier. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
I went through a traumatic, dark day experience 2 years ago. I bought a deal, my second deal that I bought in South Florida. And Eddie, it was probably one of the darkest times that I've ever experienced in my life. I thought that I was full of piss and vinegar. I knew what I was doing. And I lost $1 million. And that was tough, man. That was so tough to swallow.
Man.
I questioned every bone in my body of what I'm doing, And again, I started telling myself all these stories that I've told myself all these years about how I'm screwing up and how I don't know what I'm doing. And you just need to stay in your comfort zone, and stop trying to do all these crazy bullshit. And that it was all like coming to fruition. And, but I got out of it. And, thanks to changing my mindset, completely got out of it. And, but the great thing about that is that those dark days never last forever. And that's the one thing I've, realized. I've been through COVID, right, with real estate, freaking out about that. I went through hurricanes, not getting paid by insurance companies, having to float $1 million, to just get me through until I got paid out. Went through the $1 million loss in South Florida, so these times don't last. But the great thing is that what I found is that a lot of times these times will provide us really great lessons. And also how life has a way of showing up. And I always say it's never perfect, but it's always on time. And
It is.
What I mean by that is, give me an example. I'll tell you a little quick story. When I lost that $1 million, I was telling to the universe, manifesting, and this is something my coach told me I should do. So I started manifesting that I needed another deal. I needed a deal really bad. I was losing $50,000, $60,000 a month to attorneys, trying to fight this, bad deal that went south. And, I kept telling, people I need a deal. So one day, this guy showed up and I was like, man, I need a deal. If you get any deals, please let me know. Like I need something bad. I just sold a piece of real estate, had some cash. And so I knew I needed to be able to plop that down into something else, give me some cash flow. So he said, I got a deal, but you turned this deal down 2 years ago. I was like, fuck it. Just send it to me again. I'll look at it. So I was that desperate. So
Yeah.
I saw the deal. I looked at the deal. This is our Boston deal now. And I was looking at the deal. I bought it in March 2023, a little over a year ago. And I went through the P&Ls. I scrubbed through it. I looked at it really hard. And, the guy was just mismanaging the operations in regards to the financial operations. He wasn't running a good, tight financial ship. And so I was like, you know what? I can do this. Like, I know I can do it. And I know it wasn't a big turnaround. It was already cash flowing, but it just wasn't cash flowing enough, to where he was making enough to what he needed. So he was like, look, I need to get out of this deal. He's like, you just give me what I paid down, a down payment. You just give me my down payment money back and you can assume my SBA loan and I'm out of here. I was like, boom, sold, done. I gave him the down payment money. We closed. We did an asset sale, which we did a stock sale, which I normally don't do. But again,
Hmm.
desperate times call for desperate measures. So I
Yep.
had to do what I had to do to get it done. And we closed the deal. But here is the great part about life, Eddie, is that when I met this guy at Bank of America about 3 months after the sale, I walked up to him and I went and shook his hand. You got to remember, I was losing $56,000 and $60,000 a month. I was on the verge, no joke, of filing bankruptcy. Like
Yeah.
legit, I was on the verge of filing bankruptcy, and I thought this was going to be it. I'm like, I'm fucking done. Like I can't believe this is it. And so I did that deal. I went and met him at the Bank of America, switching over the bank accounts. I went to put my hand out to shake his hand, and I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing, Josh Wilson?" And he's like, "Hey, how you doing, John?" And he goes, "By the way, you're an angel." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You saved my house. You saved me from losing my house." And I turned
Wow.
literally right back around to him, Eddie, and I said, "You're an angel, man." I was like, "You saved me from losing my house." So life has a funny freaking way
It
of
does.
just making things happen right when you need it. And it was almost to the point where I was ready to throw in the towel and say, I can't do it. Like
Yeah.
I'm on my knees. Like you got me.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but life just has a funny way of just coming through right when you need it. And it did for him and it did for me. So if any of your listeners are out there and, they're going through something, they're struggling right now, maybe, they don't have a deal that's not working out their way. Maybe they're having an issue with their partner. Maybe, they're having an issue with their kids, like this too shall pass. I promise you the dark days don't last. But you just have to keep pushing through and have faith and confidence that life is going to throw you a line. But when it shows up, and this is the crazy part, when it shows up, most people are so hesitant to accept it. I could have just said, no, this deal is not perfect. I can't do it. I've already risked everything else. I got to get out. But
Yeah.
when it shows up, you got to be able to receive it, take it like bull by the horns and just ride. And that's
Yep.
exactly what I did. Now that deal throws off almost $1.8 million a year. So,
Dude, that is amazing. Thank you
yeah.
so much for sharing that because I know even myself and my listeners need to hear that because that is so true, man. I recently had bought a deal like 2 years ago, a motorcycle shop, and you made me feel a lot better because I only lost 100 grand in this deal, and I'm paying about 6,000 8,000 bucks a month back, not anywhere near where you're at,
Yeah.
and that really made me question everything because I realized some of the things that I did do wrong was I let pride and ego, really step in my way and make that decision for me to buy that company.
Yeah.
Like I thought that this was a really good one that I should buy, and it wasn't, and it didn't work out at all. And at
Yeah.
that point, I was like, "Wow,
Yeah. I
what
get
am I
it, man.
doing?"
I was enamored. I was enamored by the bottom line. And that's one thing that, again, I had this dream like when I was a kid, like I wanted to make 100,000 a month in net income.
Yeah,
And and that would, God was just telling me like, hey, look, we're gonna get there. We're gonna show you how we're gonna get there, but we're gonna put you through some pain a little bit so that you don't make the same mistake next time. That's
yeah.
exactly what it was. It was a great lesson, and I have now phenomenal M&A attorneys that do all my due diligence. I have phenomenal CFO. I hired a COO. Like all these things, like I would have never been able to do that had I had not gone through this because it was a lot
Yeah.
of lessons learned, and it's just life is a funny way of kicking you in the ass and
Oh
and
man.
shoving you out on the other side.
Well, you're welcome to use this. I use it all the time. I've said this a lot over the years. Is lessons cost money and good lessons cost lots, and that's your price of tuition. You can't learn what you learn here on this podcast in college. It's just not possible. So it costs you something, right? So
Yep.
your college tuition on that deal that cost you a lot. That was your college tuition was $1 million.
Yep.
Mine was a little over 100,000 and 6 8,000 a month. And you just got to pay to play, right? You just got to keep showing up.
Yep. Experience builds confidence, man. The more you do it, the more you fuck up, the more you get into the arena, the more you play, the better you're going to get, the more confident you're going to be. And like today, man, like people ask me, hey man, where do you buy at? And I'm like, I'll buy anywhere. Like
Yeah.
they're like, what? Like their eyes get like really big. They're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And that's just because how confident we are in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And also having a great team to back it up. So
Yeah. Man, I think this is a great way to bring it to a close. I thank you so much for your time today. This is truly amazing. Our listeners will definitely love this podcast. And, for our listeners, I just ask you to do one thing, for what Josh said here in the tail end of this podcast, please share this with someone that that's going through it. So many times we're men, we're made of steel, we're iron, we're the head of the household, all these things, we're not supposed to show emotion, all this stuff, just throw that stuff out the window and share this with somebody, get real. And I would encourage you to be extraordinary. Don't be ordinary, be extraordinary, and just do what Josh has said. Just keep going and just keep doing it until you get there. And it's
yeah,
amazing.
don't raise the white flag. This too shall pass, but you can't stop. You can't quit.
Right.
You quit, then you'll lose definitely.
Right. Josh, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.